When I was 19, I met this guy who was perfect. My dream guy. His name was Robert. Well, there was, like I said, my dream guy, except for one thing. He would steal his mother's car and steal gas just to come see me. This was before you had to pay before you pumped. That should have been a warning sign. But we used to hang out all the time. When I wasn't working, first he started showing up to my work randomly, just to make sure that I wasn't there. First, he started. Well, I now know that that was a lie. One of my best friends used to come to my job and wash windows because he worked at a window washing place. I worked at Burger King. And his window washing place used to wash the windows at Burger King once a week. Well, me and him would usually eat lunch together. Well, the guy I was dating, Robert, didn't like it and accused me of cheating on him. Apparently, I couldn't have an innocent lunch with a friend once a week, so I stopped that. Next thing I know, I'm being told I don't like this friend, this one, or this one. So I alienated my friends. He conned his mother into letting me move in with them. Convinced me that marrying him was a good idea, even though we were only together for 2 weeks before that, and had only known each other for 2.5 weeks. Big mistake on my part. But that's when the real horrors began. I could do nothing right. He was diabetic, and one of his emotional tactics against me was to OD on insulin, where I would have to save his life. Basically, no matter how much I wanted out, I didn't want him dead. He would knock me around, pushed me up against the wall, banging my head against it. I actually had an open cut on my forehead from him. He had me drive him to an appointment, and because I accidentally ran a stop sign, he beat my head against the dashboard. I seriously didn't know the stop sign was there. We go to visit my mother one day, and on the way there, he tells me he wants me to do something for him, to steal my parents' checks. I tell him I couldn't. He said if I don't, he would kill me and my baby sister. She is 11 years younger than me. I was 19. So I did. I knew by now something was not right, but I was too scared. I took the checks because I knew where they were hidden. I was then made to forge my mom's signature. I did. My parents found out it was me immediately. But both knew for me to do something like this, I had to be going through something. Unfortunately, by the time I was caught, $9,000 had been racked up on those checks, and my parents had to do something. Well, I find out I was pregnant. I'm scared shitless. I don't want to bring a child into this world with a father who's cruel. But my views against abortion, well, I wasn't going to have an abortion. So I tried to write a letter to my grandmother, who we called the bulldog of the family. I wanted to send it out, but my husband found out. It was a cry for help, telling her I needed her to pick me up, what my plans were for the baby, which was to give birth in Colorado near her, and then have one of my aunts or her legally adopt the baby. Then I could come back to Virginia and work on getting out of the situation that had gone bad. Well, my husband beat me for that. Pushed me into a stereo system. My cousin wanted to hang out with me. He locked me in a closet for 2 weeks with no food, water, or even a pot to piss in. I wasn't allowed out. This was worse than just being beaten. I managed to survive by reminding myself it will get better for me one day. I kept hoping he would change. He always said sorry and that he wouldn't do it again. This was a lie. Well, I decided I would kill myself and my baby at the same time. So I stole his Depakote and downed the whole bottle of it. It was 500 milligrams per pill, and he had 3 months worth of a prescription. I also took an entire bottle of extra strength aspirin. If you know anything about Depakote, you would know that you don't mix aspirin and Depakote without a doctor. And people say you can't kill yourself on aspirin, but you actually can because there's a blood thinner inside of it. And what I was hoping would happen was that I would slip into the coma that you would go into with the Depakote, and that my blood would get thin to the point where my body thought it was water, and the heart's not going to pump what it's not supposed to. So I thought that maybe I could stop my heart slowly while I was in a coma and never wake up. And but all that resulted in was me spiking a high fever and losing my baby. I admit a part of me was relieved I had lost the baby. I still tell myself that God took the baby because he did not want me to have a baby with him. He answered my prayer that if he was to spare my life after my suicide attempt, that if he would just take the baby so it didn't have to be born. I became more religious after that because I truly felt God answered my prayer. Maybe the miscarriage was a result of the abuse, my suicide attempt, or bound to happen anyways. I will never know the real answer. My system cleaned itself out, but I bled for days. During that time period, my husband was the nicest person ever, bringing me flowers, treating me like a queen. I believe he truly did change. Till one day, I stopped him from kicking the cats, and in return, he kicked me in the head. Well, my mom begged me not to go over there for Christmas. I knew why, because she hinted I was going to be arrested if I went. Now I wanted to even more. Sitting in jail would be better than being with him. I begged him to take me, not telling him of my mother's request. The last thing my mom said to me before the cop showed up was how I knew, her exact words, I know you didn't mean it. I was put in handcuffs. I didn't think my husband could bail me out, so I was banking on not getting out. I didn't tell the cop everything. I just admitted what I had done. Did not tell him about the abuse because I felt like Robert could bust in there and would beat me senseless if I did. I was too naive and scared to realize I was in a police station. That was the safest place for me. I also did not know that they knew it was him, and they would have made a deal with me. They wanted him, they didn't want me. Apparently, he had done this to his wife before me, his ex wife, and he's done it to other women as well. I found out. But I still didn't have the strength to reveal it. He bails me out $50,000. I didn't know he had that amount of money. Turns out he borrowed some from his rich mother. He picked me up and grilled me on everything. I know now he wanted to make sure I didn't tell them anything about him. Which I didn't. I can't tell you how many times my life was threatened by the man. How many times he beat me or called me names and belittled me. But I can tell you I suffered a bad case of battered woman syndrome. Well, one day he tells me he has to go to court for something he did in the past. I already knew about that. Which just so happened to be stealing some guy's checks and writing on them. He admits to me that he was thinking about running. I beg him to go to court, and I lie to him. I tell him I'll be waiting for you when you get out. He gets sentenced to 2 years. Finally, another answered prayer. I prayed and prayed that I would get an answer out, and I felt like this was God answering my prayer. You might say faith is not the answer, but faith gave me my hope that one day I would get out. My prayers kept me moving and surviving. He got sentenced to 2 years in prison. A week later on Valentine's Day, when he calls me, I planned it perfectly. Not a week later. It was more like 3 weeks later. I'm sorry. So 3 weeks later on Valentine's Day, when he calls me, I planned it perfectly. He can't beat me or kill me while in prison, and I tell him it's over. I'm leaving, and I won't be back. He begged me not to leave, but I hung up and went outside to a waiting friend who was to take me to my parents' home. But first, we stopped and off to visit him at jail because it was visiting hours. I took off his wedding ring and I left it there in front of him, and then I left. And then I asked the guard after I was sure that they put him back if she would go and get me my ring, just telling her I left it there. And then I went and I sold the ring to a pawn shop and I sent him the receipt. This was my final goodbye, letting him know I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. My friend took me to my parents' house, and I immediately moved on with my life, vowing never to go through that again and vowing to be a voice for women who need it and the pillar of strength. It hurts when even my own mother says stuff like, why not just leave or tell the cops what's happening? But let's face it, imagine being in a relationship you're scared of being in, but you're even more scared of leaving. The abuser thrives on power and will tear you down so you do feel worthless, making you feel like you need to be in it or your life will be over type thing. It's a scary thought. 5 years after I walked out that door, I finally got him to sign divorce papers. And by the end of that year, I married my boyfriend of a year, who has been a great father to my kids from a prior relationship in between him and my first husband, as well as perfect to his own daughter and treats me like the queen I deserve. 8 years ago, I married James. That's the guy who he paid for my divorce. He helped me, he was there even when I was scared. I've learned to trust when he gets upset, he's not going to hit me. I don't hide in closets from him anymore when he's upset. And I fight back. If we have an argument, I don't just sit there, you know, quiet. I will beg you not to tell someone who goes through abuse, how come you don't just leave? Because you don't realize how hard it is unless you have been through it before. Instead, be a friend. That's all they need. A friend who can help them when they ask for it. I don't care if you ridicule me, but I got my story out, and I feel better for it. I will feel even better knowing my story helps someone to give them strength they need to get out of an abusive relationship, regardless of the nature. If you or someone you know are in an abusive situation, please get help. If it's someone that you know, remember this: the abused can only leave a situation they are ready for. Leaving an abusive situation can be deadly and dangerous to their lives and their families. The National Domestic Violence Hotline number is 1-800-799-7233. Call that number. If you or someone you know is being abused, they can help you, at least talk to you or give you resources. There's women's shelters, the Samaritan House, which I don't know if they're nationwide, but if you're in Virginia, they're really huge. They've got women's shelters and everything that help. So please, I beg you, get help before it gets worse, because the abuser will always get worse. I'll leave this number up for you again, and I'll post this number in my description. But I hope you like my video. If you do, hit that thumbs up. There we go. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. And please feel free to share it. I'm sure that I'm not the only one who's ever been through that. And I want to get my story out so that maybe it can help people who are going through it, or people who know someone. If you've ever been through anything and you need to talk, just leave a comment on my YouTube channel. And thank you for watching. My next video, I probably won't be posting any more videos for the rest of the day, so My next video tomorrow will be on, I will do the part 5 to my 100 Pets Spiders series. I'm actually almost done with that. So, have a good day.